Welcome everyone to our City Council meeting for Monday, October the 12th. If we could have a roll call, Madam, to establish quorum.
Melissa Green,
Here.
Aaron McLeod,
I'm here.
Susan Harmon,
Here.
Harry Meyer,
Here.
Mickey Snyder,
Here.
Bob Thomas.
Last but not least.
We got the-
All right, if we could have pledge of allegiance. All right, before we get going, we have a public hearing tonight scheduled for the Eureka Springs Transit System. It's our annual public hearing. We have our Transit Directors Committee here, so if you want to start off and
Yeah, I have you a handout, which I'm going to read into the record. Normally, we've done this just a public hearing, but the state also allows us to do this as an agenda item at a council meeting, so that's what we're going to try this year. But I'll read the statement and answer any questions you might have. Public hearing for the Eureka Springs Transit System. I'm Ken Smith, Director of the Eureka Springs Transit System. This hearing is a requirement of the Federal Transit Administration and the Arkansas Department of Transportation. What a year 2020 has been. It started out with great expectations. We had a record February, up almost 94%. Then in March, the bottom fell out as COVID-19 began to spread. Transit continued to provide service to our community, but at an extremely limited capacity. We are not alone, as transit agencies across the country reported huge drops in ridership. In April, our total receipts were only $787, when in 2019 we had a total of over $28,000. Ridership in April was down almost 90%. Prospects for the year were quickly dashed. However, as the summer continued, we have seen the numbers of riders come back. We are still nowhere near previous year's numbers. We were able to resume tram tours in mid-May using guidance from state health organizations to keep riders safe. Our tours can carry up to 70 persons. We only sold up to 32 tickets to help with social distancing on tours. Tram surfaces are disinfected before each tour, and we require masks when social distancing cannot be achieved. We also have strict policies for our guides and drivers. As with the tours, our trolleys are deep cleaned after every day of service and are given cleanings throughout the day. Masks are required to board a trolley, and most riders do adhere to this policy. Masks are also required in all transit lobbies and depots. The CARES Act has funds for transit agencies, and Eureka Transit has been helped by these funds. Since we are a subrecipient of the state of Arkansas, we were subject to their timeline. It seems slow in coming, but beginning with the June reimbursement claims, the FTA paid 100% of eligible expenses. We have also been awarded $134,000 in lost revenue funds. These funds will be requested for each month. For the months of March through August, we have requested over $87,000 in lost revenue, which we have not received yet. Lost revenue is determined by comparing 2019 numbers to 2020, and this only applies to fare revenue. Another benefit of the CARES Act is that the FTA is funding our capital expenses at 100% for this fiscal year. That being said, we have requested and have been awarded the following items. We will be receiving 2 medium cutaway buses for our fixed route system. These buses will replace 2 buses that have reached a useful life and need replacing. Each bus will cost $61,000. We will also be receiving 2 10-passenger vans, which we'll use in our demand response service, or Share a Ride. These vans will cost $54,000 each. These will also replace 2 older vans. Share a Ride is a curb-to-curb service that we operate in Carroll, Washington, and Benton counties. As a fixed route system, we must provide an ADA paratransit service for the disabled who cannot use our fixed routes because of a disability. The paratransit service is only available for pickup and drop-offs within 3/4 of a mile of a trolley stop during fixed route operation hours. A rider must be certified as a paratransit eligible person with a disability. Share a Ride is open to everyone and can go anywhere in the state of Arkansas. However, due to logistics, we do limit the area to local counties. We also have received funding to purchase and install a complete radio system with a new repeater. The radios we currently have are ancient when it comes to electronics, and they have caused us problems in communicating effectively. The awarded amount for this system is $70,000, and we expect the system to be installed this winter. The total capital expenses comes to $300,000, 100% to be paid by the FTA. Looking at 2021 budget, taking funds spent in 2020 as a guide is not the best option. Also, we do not know what 2021 will bring as far as the COVID-19. So we decided to budget 2021 as if everything was normal, and we used funds spent in 2019 as a guide for most line items to determine the budget for 2021. There is also talk of more help for transit agencies from the federal government in 2021, but right now that's just talk, and we will not count on any special help coming. In 2021, we are requesting funding from the FTA for our administration and operation expenses. Our budgeted expenses for these two areas total $1,205,000. $326,705 are administration expenses. Those include manager and office staff salaries, maintaining the office, advertising, printing, vehicle and property insurance, and physicals for our drivers. This number is up 5.9% due to looking at spending trends over the last couple years. Salaries will actually increase due to a raise in the minimum wage. The FTA will fund 80% of these expenses, for $261,364, leaving $65,341 as a match obligation for transit to cover. Our operation expenses are budgeted at $673,500,000. These expenses include operational staff salaries, fuel, uniforms, vehicle maintenance, our tracking system, and other building costs. From this total, we subtract our fare revenue, which is budgeted in 2021 as $224,700. The remainder, $448,800, the FTA will pay 50%, or $224,400, leaving $224,400 for transit to cover. The total FTA funding requested for administration and operation expenses are $485,764, with transit needing to cover a match obligation of $289,741. We do receive funding from the state of Arkansas through the Transit Trust Fund in the amount of $167,600, which is stipulated to be used for the match obligations. This leaves a match obligation of $122,141. We cover this with advertising sales, parking revenues, and our tram tours. Transit in the last 4 years has been able to cover our match obligations without receiving help from the city. We expect to be able to cover that match again in 2021. If COVID remains an issue in 2021, we will adjust accordingly. Also in 2020, we received $22,500 grant for preventive maintenance. We were able to use this on several vehicles as well as repair our maintenance facility. This was an increase of $10,000 from the year before, and it is a welcome addition to our funding. This grant has an 80-20 match. We expect the same grant again in 2021. As always, transit is a sub-recipient of federal funding, the state of Arkansas, the Arkansas Department of Transportation being the recipient. All funds come through the state, and it is their duty to make sure all federal compliances are met. This includes documentation on spending, our drug and alcohol testing program, disadvantaged business enterprise program, Americans with Disabilities compliance, just to name a few. There are many hoops to jump through to receive these federal funds, But without them, there would be no transit in Eureka Springs. This concludes my report on the public hearing. I'm always available for questions or comments about transit, available by email, phone, or come by the office. I'm happy to speak about transit. Open for any questions that anyone has tonight.
Is there anyone from the public that is here to talk about since this is a public comments instead of city council comments at this point? Not seeing anyone, I will entertain questions from the council. Ms. Harmon?
I just have two questions. You've got 4 new vehicles. Are they already on the property?
No, they're not.
Okay.
We haven't received those yet.
Okay. Do you anticipate seeing those within the first quarter of 2021?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. So you've got 4 new ones. How many do you have total?
I have 12 vehicles for the fixed route trolleys, and I have 4 vans.
Okay, so
That's
16.
pretty much all we need. So when we buy new ones, we sell old ones.
And then how many do you anticipate next year having to replace? Are there any on 2021's budget that will need to be replaced?
I'm going to replace one more old trolley, which is a 2003 we still
Okay.
have running.
Okay, so
And
you'll
I'm going to replace a groundskeeper's truck.
okay. Okay, all right,
Next
thank
year.
you.
Does anybody else have any questions? Mr. Yes, sir.
Yeah, the share a ride passenger vans, I assume are ADA accessible.
That's it, yeah, they all have lifts, yeah.
And they're brand new for $54,000 each. That's a nice purchase price there.
It is, and it's been 100% paid for.
Yeah.
The last 2 vans we bought were Dodge Caravans with lifts in them. I think they were $37,000. These are a little bigger vans. They're more like church vans you see church vans have.
Yeah.
And they do have a lift in the back for ADA
Right.
compliance.
All right. Thank you.
Council have any other questions for the director? All right, well, thank you very much, sir, and this concludes our public hearing for the Eureka Springs Transit System for 2020.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
If I can get a motion to approve the agenda?
Motion to approve.
Second.
All right. We do have one item down at the bottom that Mr. Meyer is looking for a second on, evidently, on Council Budget Committee. Not hearing none, then that's, we'll remove that from the agenda item. Can I get a motion to approve the agenda as submitted,
So moved.
as amended, I should say?
Second.
All right, any discussion? All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? So moved. Get a motion to approve the minutes for September 28th.
So moved.
Second.
Any additions, corrections? Hearing none, all those in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, that brings us down to, there's no information or nothing on the commissions or committees at this point. Public comments? Seeing none, we have a big 0 out there. So order of business, if I can get a motion to discuss the ordinance number 2301 under levy for property taxes.
Motion to discuss.
Second.
Okay, this is our 3rd reading. This is our normal levy for the property tax that we do every year. There's been no changes in it. We discussed the ordinance and passed it the first 2 readings the last time.
Mr. Mayor,
Yes, sir.
I'd like to make a motion that we suspend the rules and read ordinance number 2301 for its 3rd reading by title only.
I'll second that.
Okay, got a motion and a second to discuss it, or put it on for reading for this. Any discussion? Okay, hearing none.
Mr. Meyer?
Yes.
Ms. Green?
Yes.
Ms. Harmon?
Yes.
Mr. McClung?
Yes.
Mr. Thomas?
Yes.
Ms. Schneider?
Yes.
6-0. Ordinance number 2301, an ordinance levying a tax on all real and personal property in the city of Eureka Springs, Arkansas.
Mr. Mayor, I'd like to go ahead and make a motion that we approve ordinance number 2301 for its 3rd and final reading.
Second.
We got a motion and a second to approve it for the third and final reading. Any discussion? Hearing none.
Mr. Meyer?
Yes.
Ms. Green?
Yes.
Mr. McClung?
Yes.
Ms. Schneider?
Yes.
Ms. Harmon?
Yes.
Mr. Thomas?
Yes.
6-0.
All right, the ordinance number 2301 passes. And that brings us up to our new business, discussion of solution for feral cats. Ms. Green and Ms. Snyder. Ms. Green?
Last year when Susan Harmon brought this up.
Whoops, you want to get a motion to discuss? I'm sorry.
Motion to discuss. Second.
All right, Ms.
Okay.
Green, go ahead.
I'm sorry. Susan Harmon brought it up last year that one of our citizens had asked about it. Our new manager at the Humane Society has partnered up with Spay Arkansas, and they do take care of feral cats. So he's going to work with Jimmy on, a solution of neutering and spaying them at a no cost, and I think he'll get with you. So it's not really an answer, but it's kind of a humane solution and may help out in some cases.
Ms. Harmon?
Can you just explain, like, what exactly they do?
Well, one of the things they will do is first, they just don't go all over town and find stray cats. They usually identify colonies, which I believe there's one behind your house, and they trap and neuter and spay them and then release them. And as I was talking to Tim beforehand about distemper, a lot of times distemper comes through Rocky Mountain cat fever. So if you're not propagating them, it is maybe a long-time solution to at least eliminating, the numbers of them.
And I just have one other question. When do you think this program could start?
Probably right after the first of the year.
Okay, and then as far as citizens within the city limits, do they need to call if they have an issue?
Yes,
Or-
yes. And,
okay.
and if they have a feral cat and they trap it, I believe Spay Arkansas is there 3 times a month. They can bring it, and for $10, they will spay or neuter it.
Okay.
Mr. McClung?
I'm just curious what you do with all the cats after they're caught.
Oh,
Release.
They,
They let them go.
They take them back to where they found them?
yes.
Okay.
But they can't propagate, so it
Yeah.
works.
Okay.
Ms. Snyder?
Terry, you should know about it. We've been doing this for decades.
Great.
It has been,
Then what are we talking about now for?
didn't they kind of slow down or quit recently?
What? Oh, I haven't heard of it since I've been here. I mean, I think
Oh,
they have
okay.
a spay clinic out there, and I suppose you
It's
could
been
bring
at
one.
least a couple of years, I know, since they have done the capture, fix, release. But it used to be done all the time, all over town, and they would just put cages out or go by phone calls from people saying, there's a lot of stray cats running around. But by fixing them, this keeps them in control.
All right, any further discussion?
So, one question. So Jimmy's gonna,
Jimmy's going to work with Cole at the shelter, like providing cages that he has. No monies, just, support.
Volunteering time.
Yeah.
Anyone else? All right, hearing none, then that moves us on to our item for number 2. Looks like we're in the animal discussion. Get a motion to discuss lack of dog license.
motion to discuss.
Second.
All right. Mr. Meyer,
Mr. Mayor?
I think you,
We have a dismally short number, a small number of people who purchase licenses, and my conversation with Jimmy after my dogs got bit was that he thinks a lot of the people don't get licenses because they don't want to spend the money on the shots for their animals. If they live in town, I think they should be able to afford to get shots for their animals. If not, I think there's probably some clinics that can help them out with that. But maybe we can ask the mayor to perhaps put some signs up on, the We got little poop stations and everything, and put a sign there that says if you live in town, your dog should have a license, and maybe an ad in the paper at the beginning of the year telling people that it's time to do that. Just to kind of poke people a little bit and see if they respond. That's all.
Ms. Meyer? Ms. Harmon, I'm sorry.
The big issue is not necessarily that they have tags. The biggest issue is that they have the rabies shots. The goal of the city is to not have rabies within the city limits. And I was telling Harry that when we lived in Delaware, we had a dog who was a puppy, and it started barking outside. It had one of those invisible fences. And we went outside and there was a fox. Well, because the dog hadn't gone through all of its shots yet, my son and I had to go through rabies shots because it was a fox on our property up close by our house. It, of course, ran away, but we didn't know whether or not it had bitten the dog or not. And apparently, with rabies, even if it's just some of their saliva that gets in an open cut or something on your hand, so if you pet that dog and that, say in this example, if that fox had gotten some saliva on the dog, then you would be susceptible to rabies if that animal had rabies. And so, of course, we had to go. My oldest was, I believe he was around 6 or 7 years old at the time. We had to go through the whole rabies shot ordeal, he and I. Of course, it was worse for him than it was for me because he was just a small kid. But, having as many animals as we do in town, raccoons, fox, the coyotes and all of that, if your dog was out in a backyard, you would never know. And if they weren't vaccinated for rabies, it is a huge, huge issue. So it's not necessarily about the money, it's about the safety of the citizens within the city limits. And that is, I will say, probably 100% of the reason why cities across the United States require that their citizens' animals have rabies shots. That is the reason, because, once you get rabies, that's kind of it. So outside of letting people know that they should have them tagged, I think it does need to have the message of why we're asking for them to be tagged, because it is up to the city to keep their citizens safe. And, that is one way to ensure that we don't have that issue here within city limits.
Ms. Green?
I'll talk to the Humane Society, and any animals they adopt out, I'll ask them to be sure and tell the new adopter that they need to get a license if they live in Eureka Springs. And also, I do like Harry's idea on the poop stations, maybe a reminder. I agree with Susan. It is important. And again, the Humane Society does offer a low-cost rabies and distemper shots. So I think most people can afford that, and I think we should be more proactive at making people license their dogs. I think the only people that have licenses on dogs are all sitting at this council table.
Ms. Snyder?
Okay, this is going to sound really bizarre, but in most cities and towns, it's a given that your dog is going to have its shots and be licensed. In all my 45-plus years here, this has never been a given. I have had dogs every day since I've been here. They have always had their rabies and distemper shots and all the other things that go along with it, and I have licensed one dog because it's not put out there, pushed out there, talked about, mandated. I don't know what it is, but I'm not kidding. In fact, when this issue came up several years ago, I let one of our city employees know that I had licensed one dog, not because I was avoiding, a $5 fee, not because of that, but because I kept forgetting about it. We've got to do something to remind people. What I asked then, and the whole issue just got dropped, was, is there any reason why we can't work with the area veterinarians so when they give a dog its rabies shots, it would automatically get a city license, the
They're
tag.
outside the city limits and you can't do it legally.
We can't take those over there if they voluntarily say they'll give it to them?
No,
Why not?
because they're charging money and reimbursing the city. And
They-
that's illegal from the state. They have to be inside the city limits.
Okay, how about this? We don't charge for a dog license. If they get their shots, the vet gives them the tag, that makes them licensed. Can we do
The
that?
veterinarian cannot charge for the.
No, that's what I'm saying, let's make it free. Could we work along, because like I said, it's
We
mostly
can't, we
people
can't.
not
the-
thinking
When the
of it.
vets are outside the city limits, it creates problems.
All right, well, that's the biggest problem, is people don't think they get their rabies shots. They know that's what's integral, that's what's important, and so they do that. They don't think about needing a city tag saying you have a legal dog. They just don't.
Ms. Green?
Well, first of all, most rabies shots now are 3 years, and I went down to get my license last year, and they said, oh, no, you don't have to, you have a three-year thing. So it's not expense, I think it's education, enforcement. I think the $10 is very reasonable to have your dog licensed. I think it's important.
All right. Harry?
One of the reasons I brought this up was Jimmy had to come to my house to dispatch a raccoon that had distemper. Down the street from me, he had to come after a fox that had distemper. He said he's dispatched over 40 animals this year. It's the fox population grew a couple of years ago, and now it's shrinking fast. So the bug is there, and it's going to get around to people's pets for sure. And, you know, we could probably pay for Jimmy's salary if everyone got a dog license.
Yep.
He's pretty cheap.
Ms. Harmon?
One of the reasons why having them registered with the city is so that you have a name, you have an address, you have a contact, either by phone or email, whatever is asked. I can't remember what was on the original paperwork. But they have that information there in front of them as far as the certification that that animal has had a rabies shot. So when Jimmy does have someone who calls and he does capture an animal that is known to have distemper, if the city wanted to, or if he wanted to, he would know which dogs are in that particular area that might have come in contact with that particular animal. If we don't have it at all, there's no way to go ahead and communicate with those individuals that are in that particular neighborhood, be it, you know, maybe within a half mile or a mile. There's no record. So it is all about having records and having that information and being able to say that this is what's going on. I can communicate with those individuals that I know have animals, that there is this issue in that neighborhood, but at the same time, it is making people be responsible to get those shots. Now, Mickey, you may always get your shots. My dogs always have their shot, but that doesn't mean that everybody does that. And unfortunately, there are some that don't. And those are the ones that we have to worry about. So again, it goes back to the city being responsible for making sure that the town is safe. And whether that's one person or two people that fail to get those shots for their animals, it still becomes an issue within the city limits. So, you know, we've talked about how they could get that information out. We've got water bills. We've got that come from the city. Those notifications can go out. There are things that go out or could go out at the beginning of the year or mid-year. So it's easy to communicate that information and get it out to the citizens. And once that system starts and people are aware of it, they'll talk amongst themselves, and eventually you'll have most everyone knowing that that is a requirement.
Mr. McClung?
Yeah, we have a charge for a dog license. We have a penalty,
Right.
if they don't have a dog license. So I think it's important that we, that we push this, and we, as Susan said, the avenues, through correspondence from the city to the citizens, also public service announcements on the radio and the newspaper, and I think it's, it's telling Jimmy that it's, every dog he picks up, if it's unlicensed, that, they get a ticket. They don't get and they have to get the dog, it's shots. Cats too, don't they fall under that same thing? Don't they have to be licensed?
Depends on the town.
Not here.
Not here? Well, maybe they should be. But anyway, at least the dogs that, that they can't be picked up until they, they get their license or they get their shots, or that's part of the deal.
Yep.
And, if you're going to be if you want to have a pet, then you got to be responsible for it. I mean, it's that simple. It's, it's not rocket science. So, I think we need to push that. Absolutely.
Mr. Meyer?
There's one good benefit for having a license too. As Jimmy told me the other day, is if he catches, somebody calls and they've found a lost dog, he will go pick up the dog, and if it's got a city license, he'll find out who the owner is and take it to them.
Yep.
Well, when you get-
Otherwise, if there's no tag on the dog, there's no way to know where the dog goes.
Except they can check through a rabies tag too. They can.
If they got a current rabies tag.
Yeah, if they've got a rabies tag, they can check that way too.
All right, I think we've come up with a couple of different solutions here I can talk to Jimmy about on the enforcement issue, and also we can talk to, I'll talk to Dwayne, saying, unfortunately, our water bill's already got quite a bit of information on it, so I'm not sure we can crowd anything more on the back of it. I'll see if there is something in there that we can do, but we may be able to do something else in there. I'm not sure if there's some other things we can send out, but we'll see. I think the first thing is hopefully the newspapers will pick this up. I know we got the newspapers in with us tonight, so they'll make a note of it. It's a lot cheaper if you go ahead and get your license, your dog license, rather than have to pay a fine. I don't know what the fine is, but I know it's a lot more than a dog license. So I think it's encouraging for people to go ahead and do that. We got anything else from anybody else? Or we beat this one to pretty much? All right. We'll go ahead and see if we can get some action taken on that. Thank you guys for coming up with that. All right, that comes up, that puts us down to our agenda setting. Anybody? Mr. Thomas?
I have a question. I believe last meeting, Mr. McClung asked about having the hospital commission come. Can that be put on the agenda for the next meeting?
Well, let me check with him. I've been talking to him about that, and I want to make sure we get there's some things going on. I think we need to get there where they are, and they'll be before us soon.
Okay.
Yeah. Ms. Harmon?
And I haven't asked for quite some time, but I would really like to get an update on Parks financials.
I can tell you right now, the parks, they're waiting to get the approval, I think, on the first and second quarter on that, and that should be coming before us.
Okay, so can you put that on the agenda so that we can either get a date or we can actually
We
have them in
we can
hand?
put it on the agenda, no
Yep.
problem.
Okay.
I'll second that.
Okay. Anybody else? All right,
I'm sorry, did we
Ms.
need a
Harmon?
second for Bob's?
I'm sorry?
No.
Did we get a second?
No, I said we would go ahead and take care of that myself
okay.
later on.
All right, sorry.
He said, because I've been working with the chairman about coming up here and giving us a report. So we will have that done soon. I'm just not sure the next meeting will be enough time for what we're doing up there. So I haven't forgot about it, Mr. Thomas, for sure. All right, anybody else? Mr. McClung, council comments.
I just want to give my condolences to the Darrell Bunch family. Darrell passed away last evening, and Darrell's a businessman here for many, many years and a real asset to our community. And you're all familiar with Bunch's Quick Check, and it's just a heartbreaker, and I'm saddened by that fact, and I'll certainly miss Darrell.
Ms. Harmon?
Nothing.
Mr. Meyer?
Evidently, there's some confusion as to why I want to add a budget committee to the agenda. This winter, I went to 2 workshops at the Municipal League, and most of the mayors that I spoke with there appointed a 2-person budget committee off the council. Right around budget time, they would go over the budget themselves, have a public meeting, listen to the public, and give their input to the council. I think it's a worthwhile effort.
Ms. Snyder?
I agree with Terry. Darrell is going to be greatly missed. He's a long timer, that's for sure. That's all.
Ms. Green?
Okay, well, I kind of hate to use my council comments again for this, but I'm going to. A paid-for ad in the Independent says 6 reasons to abolish the Historic District Commission are misleading. I will try to explain these facts that are not alternative. Number 1, it says stop $500 a day fines. Many of our municipal codes have fines attached to them that read up to $500 a day. In 18 years, I know of no one who has gotten such a fine. Permits issued, then revoked. No permits have ever been revoked. Only permits that have done unapproved work, they have been cited, not revoked. 3, stop numerous lawsuits. In 18 years that I have been here, only 1 lawsuit involved the HDC. 2 others were property disputes between neighbors that did not like the HDC ruling. All, I believe, had Tim Parker as their lawyer. My opinion is that it is a huge stretch to say numerous. Stop tagging. Well, laugh out loud. I agree, tagging is called graffiti, and nobody wants that in town. Number 5, if we abolish Ordinance 1978, we lose the protection for not only our historic properties, but all of our properties. 6, you can make commissions better. What you can't do is get a historic district back. Please don't buy into all this misleading information. Vote against abolishing the HDC. Thank you.
Mr. Thomas?
I'd like to suggest that Mr. Meyer just come up with a plan to present to council, not on the committee. I don't understand why the whole council could not do what you're suggesting needs to be done. So I would suggest you just come in with a sequence of how it should be done and let us discuss it.
Got to get a second.
Please. Mr. Thomas, anything else?
Nope, that's it.
All right. I'm going to have to weigh in on the Budget Committee also. I agree with Mr. Thomas. We have a committee of the whole that meets with the Budget Committee, and we can call as many meetings as we want to discuss it. The public's included. We have the workshops. Having a private meetings just with 2 council members seems to exclude the council. So I think what's been going on here for the last 40 years with the budget as a whole and the council seems to work pretty good. I also want to, at this point in time, to extend my condolences to the Bunches family. Lola's, I know she's devastated, and so is Terry. They've been around here for a long, long time, and Darrell will certainly be missed. He's been a part of our community, and so is Terry and Lola and Sheila. So my prayers and thoughts go out to all of you, and sincere condolences. And tagging on with with Ms. Green about the HDC, I want to also remind everybody, if you did not get a chance to see the forum, the Historic District Forum that we had last Sunday, it's still on YouTube, and you can go out to the city channel and look at it on YouTube. There's a lot of information out there that came out, and I certainly want to, again, give special thanks to Catherine Barrier of the Arkansas Historic Preservation Program for coming up and helping us through this ballot issue. Once again, I think it's important, as with all the issues that are on the election, that we need to be informed with the opinions and the facts. Informed with the facts, I should say, instead of people's opinions. Opinions are not facts. And I think it's important for us to recognize that there's a lot of misinformation that's out there that's going on about the historic district. The last forum that we had with Catherine Barrier, I think, explained a lot of the facts that are going on and how important it is for our community and for the state of Arkansas. So this is an important issue, along with several other items that are on the ballot. So, and I know people are already starting to vote, but if you haven't voted, please go back and look. If you have any questions, I'm sure you can contact any members of the Historic District Commission, or look on the Ask the Arkansas Historic Preservation Program. Give them a call. They'll be glad to answer your questions also. So outside of that, I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All right, so moved. Thank you all.